Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press TV Hangouts. I am your host, Diego Crespo, and with me I have my co-host, Emily Sophia. How are you doing today?
I am doing just dandily. Excited to be talking more Game of Thrones because I never want it to end, and production for the next season is going to take longer. So we may as well milk this season for all it is worth.
Yes, and I think we both agree that this season is worth a lot because it was
Mm-hmm.
an excellent return to form, possibly the strongest form it's ever been in. Um, and I had asked everyone on Twitter what they thought of Game of Thrones season 6, and I'd read some answers. But first, let's look at the polls. 60% said this was the best season yet. I listed it as the GOAT, as in the greatest of all time, but you voted for it anyways, so thank you. 23% good. 13% says Kanye Shrug, just it's all right, and then 4% said it was the worst season. Nobody responded with a reason for the worst season, and I would really like to know anybody's thoughts on why they would think that. You know, I mean, think whatever you want.
Right.
I just want to hear like interesting discussion. So, if you didn't like the season at all, or you just thought it was the worst one, please let us know because I am very curious. I
So
would really like
am
to.
I.
Yeah, I'd really like to know what mentality behind that is.
Yeah.
Uh, Antonio Del Giasco. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Antonio. He's mostly satisfied. Uh, just oh, hang on. Your tweet's a little odd. I'm just going to quote it directly. I'm now mostly satisfied if on par with S6. The show is the only ending we see. I don't know what that means, Antonio, but I know you're a good guy, so thumbs up.
That'll do.
Yeah, at Jack Godwin, great season on average, but had weird pacing, rushed through a lot of storylines, and I think occasionally there was a little bump in the road in pacing or some rushing of storylines.
Mhm.
I can see that. And then at the Equiatic Bind on Twitter, the only thing better was the We Talk Movies coverage that was so fire it would burn Daenerys. Yeah, Sean does the weekly coverage for Game of Thrones, audienceseverywhere.net, so check that out. His season review is hilarious, so definitely watch that. Um, but yeah, we're gonna break it down region by region, so we can tackle a show with 1,000 characters and keep our sanity and try to keep it under an hour because it was a big season and
Yes.
a lot happened. So why don't we just start with Dorne and get it out of the way, and then we'll
Yep.
wrap it all around at the end and bring up that stuff again. But Dorne was in two scenes in this season.
A
Two
grand
scenes.
dose at the beginning and at the end, just to bookend the action.
Yeah, and you know what? Sure. If we gotta have Dorne, I think this is the way to do it. Just sprinkle them in where you need them, and have them like clean house. I think a lot of the first half of the season was just cleaning house from the mess of season 5. Like even the stuff that worked in that season and that was really great, they're like, okay, we need to like make sure this we don't lose track of the audience. We don't mess around too much anymore. And so
Mhm.
they just start off by killing off every man in Dorne basically, and it's like the greatest. I don't even know if it's still good, but it's the best Dorne stuff by far that we've
Oh
seen.
yeah.
So that's a weird way to reintroduce slash end that storyline this season, but why not?
What can you do? I mean, yeah, I think that this is probably the best that we have gotten of Dorne. It's really funny because I remember when the premiere dropped, everybody was just losing their shit about how terrible it was, and then everybody kind of calmed down and we were pacified by, essentially getting to be anywhere that wasn't Dorne, and then we come back around and you got Grandma Tyrell sassing up a storm, which I loved. And that scene in the finale was like, I don't know, a minute long maybe, and it was just enough to kind of show how the different players are reacting to what House Lannister is up to, and everybody is kind of posturing themselves for war, and so Dorne is kind of in that, I guess, and it was fine. Strictly average, strictly okay. I really can't complain too much because we were barely there. So
Yeah, it just existed.
it happened. It's real in that world, and I accept that, I guess.
Yeah, so there's really not much to say. Just
Nope.
I think they spent the season getting everything else right, and they realized they couldn't do Dorne properly, so they're just like, we'll just kind of sweep them over here for now.
Yeah,
And you know what?
they're in
Sure.
timeout.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to see what they do with them next season, if only because I'm curious instead of like legitimately interested in any thematic threads that could possibly be involved with Dorne. But I do like that. I think I mentioned it in the season finale review, where Lady Olenna just kind of shuts up the Sand Snakes individually. Like every time one of them tries to speak, and she's like, "Hush, hush," and then the third one doesn't even get the chance to speak, and she's like, "What else? You got something to say?" Ah, I don't care. Like, she was us.
Oh,
She was us in that
yes.
moment.
Yes. It's very cathartic. Surprisingly so.
Yeah, because like every time they would talk in season 5, and they should be like the coolest characters. They should be like a bunch of mini Aryas, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
They're not. But every time they spoke last season, it was like, my father. And that's how they would open every sentence. And
Yep.
it was just awful.
It's like, I really don't care at all. Be your own people, please.
Yeah. So hopefully we see more improvement next season, because I imagine they're going to be in more than 2 scenes, given the way they're clearly going to team up with Daenerys to take King's Landing in Westeros.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we just move over to King's Landing, because there's nothing else to talk about there.
Yep. Sounds
Everyone's dead. Like everyone.
good.
They're gone. The entire supporting cast that isn't Cersei or Jaime or Bronn. And Cersei's little, like, her squad of an undead mountain, and
Qyburn.
Qyburn, the weirdo, who's not bad, just not good, just like, all right, let me do weird shit.
He is utterly ambiguous, and teaming up with Cersei has the potential to do some serious harm. So we shall see.
Yeah, I'm wondering what like how long could they drag out Cersei stuff more? Because I mean, it's not boring now. I mean, Cersei is like terrifying more than ever right now. But what else could you do? You know, I mean, because she's just gonna wage more war on people. Like, at what point do people just be like, "Fuck it," and riot against the queen? Or maybe they're tired of rioting against their their leaders, because they did that for like all of Joffrey. And then they got better. It got better with Tommen, because nobody hated Tommen. Tommen was just a little boy.
Yep.
Now Tommen's dead because Cersei drove him to insanity and suicide. And yeah, now nobody likes Cersei. I mean, I can't imagine.
Everybody knows who she is and what she's about. So are they just going to kind of accept it, or I really have no idea. I think that a lot of the most powerful interactions that we're probably going to see is between Cersei and Jaime, you know, because like you said, so much of the supporting cast there, like 90% of it is gone now. So either we're going to start seeing familiar faces showing up in King's Landing very soon, or it's going to be very much focused on the core Lannisters who are left. So yeah, I have no idea what exactly is going to happen or how much time we're actually going to spend in King's Landing, you know? Because it's a huge development to have Cersei on the throne, but it's like you said, push comes to shove, what are people going to do? Where's the next big source of conflict going to come from? And is it going to be huge, or is it going to be a series of conflicts leading up to freaking Daenerys showing up, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, and just a real quick overview of everything. Is that pretty much this season just goes to show you should really listen to women, because they run this shit for better and for worse. Because Cersei is obviously the worst case scenario, but then you got Daenerys finally bringing peace to what is the equivalent of like the Middle East in Westeros. And obviously Sansa saves the day with Jon. Uh, Arya determines her own destiny and is gonna or has returned home to Westeros. I'm
Mhm.
wondering where she's gonna end up, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Jamie, I don't know if he has like a full arc. His like arc as a character overall in the series got a little odd after season 4, because in season 3 and 2 you really start getting to understand him more, but season 3
Mhm.
specifically you get like all this stuff about him, like, and who he is, where he comes from, what
Yeah.
his motivation is, and that, you know, he's not great, but he has his own sense of honor and he does care about the people of Westeros. And obviously he's totally going to kill Cersei because she did the one thing that like made him a decent person. Like if you had an argument with someone of whether or not Jaime's a decent person, the one thing you'd bring up as a defense of him is him stopping the burning of King's Landing, and she did it. So not great. Uh,
Yeah.
and then in season 4, they have that weird rape scene with him and Cersei, and so like
Oh.
why? Because it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Why that was there?
Nope.
Nothing came from it. Uh,
Mm-mm.
they still trusted each other implicitly and wholeheartedly. Um, yeah. So after that, his development gets a little odd, and then the rest of season 4, he's like just a normal guy.
Yeah.
So that made that even weirder. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's like, who are you even? What are
And
you doing here?
in season 5, he's focusing on a traditional hero, like medieval hero thing. You know, save the princess. The princess just happens to be his incestuous daughter.
Yep.
Uh, and then, you know, the tragic ending there. So he doesn't really grow, but he's doing more good guy shit. You know,
Yeah.
he's not fucking up. And then season 6 gets a little better again, and but then it finally solidifies him as being more open-minded than any Lannister except for Tyrion. And he helps Brienne because they've obviously grown so close and they're comrades in arms, even if they're on opposing sides.
Yep.
And I can't wait for them to team up again. I really don't want them to fight. If they
I
do,
know.
it'd be probably like emotionally devastating, but that might make for a good story beat. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have trouble tracking his development, as I've just explained, but I still like his character a lot.
Mhm.
I Yeah, again, this ties in with Cersei. I don't know what else you could do with him though, besides
Yeah.
have him kill his sister.
Yeah, that kind of seems like the big trajectory for him, you know, like it's almost like that is his destiny at this point. Because pretty much it was, I mean, if you had to sort of try to track his development this season, again, like you said, it kind of zigzags, it's sort of ambiguous at times, but pretty much a lot of the main stuff that he did was to solidify his relationship with Cersei, to do things to be close to her and to secure their power. So he is like the epitome of the supporting character in that sense. It's just that we haven't seen as much of him, and of course there's the whole the siege at River Run, that where you know he's surprisingly kind of in a passive role with it, because he just sort of takes over, and that's that, says goodbye to Brienne from afar, and then comes back to discover that his beloved has done a bad thing. So yeah, I think next season could be pretty huge for him, but probably at this point is all about taking Cersei down. So if I had to guess, but we'll see. And hopefully he partners with the right people to do that. But
I would really like to see him join up with the remaining Starks, just because that'd be such like a weird juxtaposition.
that's what I'm hoping too. I didn't know if that was too fan fiction-y in my mind, or if that's within the realm of plausibility, but I'd like to think, I think that would be super cool, actually.
Yeah, and especially because, you know, like the one redeeming thing is that he legitimately wants what's best for the realm. Like he says, like, fuck everyone that's not the Lannisters, but really, he's not all talk when it comes to that, but he's mostly talk. He'll walk, he'll lightly jog. Cersei will run that shit, but he will like lightly jog and be like, wait, hang on,
Mm-hmm.
hold it. I
Yeah.
can't abandon these people, and because the threat of the White Walkers, obviously, and Daenerys and her dragons, he's got to shift some stuff around. He's got to shift priorities around.
Yeah, and when you think about it too, they're sort of his illegitimate family with Cersei is kind of atrophied over time, you know, with the loss of son after son. And so it's like, even though he's saying all these things and paying lip service to the fact that it's all about the Lannisters, we are all that shit, you know, I think that when push comes to shove, he's gonna stick it out for the realm. Like you said, there's just enough of that heroism and sense of rightness in him, I suppose, that he could be inclined to take a different side. And like you said, that betrayal too, I think, is really kind of the clincher. So yeah.
Yeah, the King's Landing stuff really worked for me this season. I mean, I'm sure there were some little bumps in the road here and there, but nothing really stands out. I mean, looking back at the season as a whole, that really dragged this down. There was no real wheel spinning. Everything moved fluidly and then blew up literally in everyone's faces. So,
yep,
that was some good. But let's follow Brienne back to the north and the Wall. Obviously, everyone knew Jon was going to come back, just because that was really heavy-handed, but not in, like, I wasn't done poorly. It was just clearly set up to be that way, because we mentioned this a bunch of times over the course of this season, where this season is also very, not optimistic, but they really deliver these satisfying new openings for stories and conclusions to some in a good way that's more than just fan service. It's the only route where they could go, but that's like the mark of good storytelling, where they've set up everything so appropriately that if they did anything else, it would be disappointing, you know? Yeah. So, like, if Jon had lost and the North kept losing at this late in the series lifetime, that would have been disappointing, and that probably would have just not worked. It wouldn't have the critical acclaim that it would have. Everyone would be really bummed out when they watched it, and then they'd been like, wait a second, okay, so what's the point of this 6-year journey that we've been following for these characters now? Now it's just more pointlessness. You know, I mean, you can't have another Red Wedding. I mean, you could have a small-scale version of it again, like that, but you can't have something like that where it just nullifies the entire journey. And so then the North and the Wall stuff really capitalized on that. And Jon Snow's revival is, oh man, that is one of those really great television moments, I think, where everyone could just like cheer and be happy for a moment. And in a show like Game of Thrones, this season probably delivered that more than most other ones. And it's just nice to have that. You know, I mean, it gives it a more wholesome experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, it's nice to kind of be past the point of the traditional cliches that have been attributed to the show, like with, oh, everybody dies. And yeah, there was a lot of somebodies who died this season in different ways and on different scopes. But at this point, it's really exciting to have all of the core players and to see how the Starks and Jon Snow and all of these characters that we've been with for so long, it's so cool to see all of them come together and to have their fates intertwined towards facing this greater enemy. So yeah, it's just, I keep saying satisfying. I feel like I've said it in every review that I did on my YouTube channel and in our reviews as well, but it just really is. And not in a fan servicey way at all. I think, you know, this stuff it's magnificent. It's prophetic, you know. I've seen so many cool reviews and videos of people breaking down the different prophecies and everything from like Bran's visions to Jon's role and this and that. And it's just, the big picture is starting to come together. And if we're going to lose people, it's going to be, I think, a lot different from here on out. And this was the season that's setting everybody up for whatever the next big hit is going to be. But it was necessary, very much so. I think that the only real complaint that I've heard about this season is people trying to say that it felt too predictable. But it's like you said, this is what we've been working our way towards for years, you know? So it's delivering on good storytelling. So, and I feel like that is really epitomized in everything that happened in the North. Like Battle of the Bastards, you know, is probably one of my favorite episodes of all time, on so many levels. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I feel happy. I feel scared because I know as well as Jon and Sansa and everybody knows what's coming, but it's cool to see them coming back into power in this way, in a much deserved way, I think.
Yeah, and again, yeah, predictable doesn't mean it's bad. I mean,
No, it's a good thing.
yeah, I mean, how many movies follow like a 3-act structure? Like, you don't go to a Die Hard movie and expect John McClane to die. You go to a Die Hard movie for thrills where it's an ordinary man caught in an extraordinary situation. And maybe that's a bad example because the last two totally ignore that aspect of it, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
And it's all about the execution, you know?
Mhm.
And also, these are probably the most earned sort of arcs where people just go through the shitter for so
Yeah.
long, and the Starks have lost
Yeah.
everything.
It's not as
And
if they
even though,
haven't suffered, you know?
yeah, and you know, even though they got stuff back, they got Winterfell back. It's never going to be the same, but they can make it better. And that little sense of optimism introduced this season really, really pays off, I think.
Mhm.
And in terms of the execution, obviously, we got to talk about Miguel Sapochnik, who just dominated those last 2 episodes of the season.
Yes.
Ran it, did a home run with Hardhome. But these two, oof, I think they're even better.
Yeah.
I think there's some criticism of some of the actions in Battle of the Bastards and how characters acted in the heat of the moment.
Mhm.
And let's say hypothetically, they even bought into those arguments for a little bit. I think that totally ignores the excellent direction Miguel Sapochnik executed here, where you're just so involved in the moment and the cinematography, the performances he gets out of the actors, and the claustrophobic nature of some of the battle scenes. Even though it's on a wide open field, he
Yeah.
manages to really make it feel close quarters. And then when it finally does get actually close quarters, he suffocates you, and it makes you feel like you can't breathe. Or maybe that was just me. I don't know.
Oh no, that was me too.
Yeah, and then, you know, again, if Jon Snow died there, that would have been a pointless story to follow. Then that would have just been nonsense, and it wasn't. But the fact that they got the best director Game of Thrones has ever had, in my opinion, to execute it that way, made it a whole lot better. I'm really, really bummed he's not going to be back next season. Like, that's just
Oh.
heartbreaking. And I found out that the director of the Sand Snakes fight, which is also the worst episode of Game of Thrones, also the episode with Ramsay raping Sansa at the end. I hate that episode. That just destroyed me. He's coming back though. So,
Why?
you know, I'm
Sacrifice him to the Lord of the Light, please.
or at least get him like a better handling on the direction, something. You know, I try to be optimistic, but let's be real. That's not a good sign.
That's not a
I don't
good
know.
prereq to have coming
Yeah.
coming off of arguably the best season that the show has had. He better, implement some stuff that he's maybe learned from lessons past. I hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can hope for at this point. And but I also want to touch on Sansa's development this
Yes.
season because, yay, it was good again.
A complete turnaround.
Yeah, I love this character wholeheartedly. She's my favorite Game of Thrones character. And to see her succeed in such triumphant ways, even from the beginning of the season where you open with them, her and Theon on a chase throughout the north, being chased by Ramsay's men. She's not just just there to be like a dramatic plot point. She has her own desires and she takes her own actions, and that's finally she's a character again. And she has some development with Jon Snow a little bit, where they don't fully trust each other as much as they should. Not because they don't straight up trust each other, just they've been through so much, they don't fully have that communication. And even before that, we never see this because the show opens with the family splitting up, the Starks splitting up immediately. But it's clear there that the history between these two characters, Sansa didn't respect him because he wasn't a pure Stark and she wasn't really his sister. But now Sansa's matured, as one does as they get older. So maybe stop throwing shade at young Sansa people. Anyway, she's matured and she understands that that's, of course, he's her brother.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, he's her cousin. But we'll get to that. But I mean, even then, she's more his sister than I think they're still considered siblings, just because if it's not a complete blood relationship, it's they're their family through and through, and that's wonderful. And she'd totally be Queen of the North, but hopefully Jon will figure that out before he almost suffocates to death in an army of his own men again.
Yep.
So hope for the best there. I want to know what Littlefinger's got going on.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Makes me a little bit scared, of course, because he's trying to leech on to Sansa still. So I don't know what's going to go down there, because there's just enough of a communication gap between Jon and Sansa that I don't think that they would try to actively screw each other over by any means. But there's enough wiggle room as they're trying to establish this trust with one another and how they're going to go about things. And then there's Littlefinger knocking on the door for his dues, and makes me a little bit nervous. But it is really cool to see Jon and Sansa embracing one another as siblings, as friends, even, after all this time and all of the traumas that they've endured, been to hell and back again. But then there's Littlefinger still in the shadows. I don't like it.
Yeah, he's a loose cannon too. I want to see him and Varys meet up again, just one last time.
Yes.
Multiple scenes with them again, but if they have to just meet up one last time, I really want it to take place in King's Landing again, just to show how far they both come.
Yes.
Because Varys really does care about the realm, and she obviously thinks Daenerys is the one to take care of it. At least from my perspective, I don't know. Maybe he's got something else up his sleeve, but I don't know if they could pull it off this late in the game. Like, why even bother?
Yeah.
He's clearly looking out for his own. He wants the throne. I mean, he states it, so.
Yeah. He says it out loud. It's a thing.
I wonder what else he's got going on, because we really haven't. I don't know if the actor was just filming other stuff, or if they kept him deliberately in the shadows this season because there was so much else going on. But yeah, I mean, he seems pretty set on that throne. So what else could he got going on? It's not like he can burn down the rest of King's Landing.
Right, yeah, because there was only a couple of scenes where we even got to see him like scheming or moving the chess pieces in some way. So kind of begs the question, of whether or not he's going to come to the forefront a bit more next season, or if he's just going to continue to latch on to whoever seems to be poised to take more power. I don't know. I'd like to see more of him, maybe. Maybe. But definitely a showdown with him and Varys would be very cool. I would like that.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, I'm glad Pod is still alive.
Yes.
I wanted Brienne and Pod to take place or to have a part in the battle, but then part of me is like, oh, they'd totally kill off Pod. Like, and that would make me so sad. Yeah, like he's one of those Game of Thrones characters that is totally on the chopping board at this point, because we pretty much have all the central players for the big showdown with. I think the White Walker is going to be the big showdown, but maybe something else. I think just Cersei is one of the odd mans out, or odd women out at this point. Just I don't see how she fits into the bigger picture. But then you got all these supporting characters that could just be like not important, so they got to go bye. I want him and Brienne to continue on their night services together until the end of time.
Yes.
So please keep them safe.
Yep. Just the closing shot of the end of the show will be Podrick. It'll just close on his face.
Well, no, actually, I have a different theory. I think the ending is just going to be like Westeros is just going to be in ashes and broken cathedrals and glass. There's no humans left, and then a single rowboat lands ashore, and then Gendry walks out, and he's like, "Okay, what did I miss?" Yeah, that's the ending right there. And then it just cuts to black.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
12 out of 10.
Thank you. Yeah. I like those characters a lot, so I hope they make it through. And I would like to see Gendry again, but at this point, I don't think we need to either. You know, maybe he's just living his life on a farm. Like, you know what? I could actually imagine Arya running into him next season and being like, "Yo."
That's a good idea, actually. That'd be kind of neat. Because she's still sort of got time to run around on her own, maybe, although she kind of teleported from Braavos to Riverrun.
Oh, yeah.
She can be anywhere at any time.
Yeah, and we had mentioned this in the finale, too, where, that stuff's a little silly, but at the same time...
It's okay.
Well, yeah, it works for the emotional. Yeah, and the stories connect easier on that level. You don't have to logically explain, oh, it took them this long to get here, and it took them this long to get here. Like, you can just make up in your own mind, oh, how'd they get there? Oh, we didn't see it. They're here now.
Yep.
Plays out because it's more interesting and dynamic that way. Ta-da!
Ta-da! Precisely.
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
So, the North, I think... Yeah, anything else to say on the North stuff this season? I mean, I am very satisfied.
Did we want to talk briefly about stuff way up far in the north with Bran and company?
Oh, that's where I was going next. So
okay, cool.
Why don't we just head that direction?
Awesome.
This is where two Game of Thrones theories were sorted out. One was like some guy on some message board or something theorized that Hodor meant hold the door. Like way back when on one of those old blogs or like an old Game of Thrones like fan site or like a Song of Ice and Fire. Like I think this dates back to the books, and he got it right somehow. I don't know how specific he got, but apparently this guy got hold the door right, and that's just me. I can't imagine
crazy.
If I was that guy, I'd like buy myself beers forever. Just be like, oh yeah, I figured out this specific minuscule plot twist. And of course Uncle Benjen as well. He's not named Cold Hand in the show, but he is that character. Yeah, in the books he has an elk. I would have liked to have seen an elk.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean that's okay though. I mean they clearly used their budget on all of episode 9. So yeah,
bigger things, I guess.
yeah, I'm cool without the elk, but that would have been so cool. And Bran stuff got really interesting. I think for a while, myself included, there were ideas that maybe Bran wasn't so important to the show. Like, why are we even following this character?
Right.
Did some minor research. It's really available everywhere if you just Google stuff about A Song of Ice and Fire. George R.R. Martin had intended for the books to be from the sole perspective of Bran at one point. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's pretty important.
Yeah. That's a good clue.
I'm going to keep that in mind from now on so I don't ever look like a dumbass again.
Yeah, no, it did kind of make everybody, especially probably the non-book readers, to sort of wonder, like, okay, maybe we're slowly stepping back and we're going to focus on the other Starks and so on and so forth. But then it kind of turns out that he is enmeshed in a lot of things that are very important to the entire universe. So, what do you know?
Yeah. It's also really interesting to me because if that was the route that the books originally, that's kind of our perspective in the show. I mean, the show doesn't lean heavily on it, but the first episode ends with Bran falling out of the tower. And so that's us being, holy shit, you know? And this is maybe me reading into it a little much, but he's involved in all the real shittiness that the Starks go through for the early seasons. He's in Westeros and hiding for the first 3 or 4, and then the end of the 4th season, he makes it up north, and then that's where he realizes, oh, there's all this bigger stuff going on beyond the wall. And that's kind of us as the viewers, too. So he's really been guiding our hand and showing us what the real deal is with the series. And then season 5, he's not in it at all. So maybe that's why it was like all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, we need Bran to be our guiding light. And this season, of course, we get the showdown with the Night's King. He loses his dog, and we once again kill off Max von Sydow after minor roles in mainstream pop culture, cinema, and television. I mean, he's awesome. Why do we keep doing this? I have a quick complaint about the direwolves because I love them, but I don't understand why they needed to introduce them. And maybe the showrunners realized they couldn't pull off what George R. R. Martin had intended with them, or maybe George R. R. Martin didn't have anything with them either, and so they're just like, okay, well, we don't need them, so chop them up, or or just leave Ghost at the wall. Like that's it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because it's like there's such. It would really be cool to get more of a diversity of creatures in the show, but I guess maybe that wasn't as sustainable for their storytelling purposes or something. But it's like, if I have to see another freaking beheaded direwolf again, I will rage. I am done with that phase of life. I can't deal with it no more.
Yeah, that's 2 now, right? Like Rob's and Rickon's, and poor Rickon. We didn't even talk about Rickon, but we talked about him in the previous episodes. He's not that much of a character, but he was a kid, and I feel bad for him. And Bran is going to be taller than everyone by the end of the series. That kid grows like nobody's business. Oh, and I just noticed something. When his uncle Benjen leaves him and Mira at the wall because of the magic where the dead can't pass it, which is a good thing for now. I'm sure that's just going to blow up in their faces too next season. How is they going to carry him? I'm sure they're going to have like a logical answer next season. But when he left, when Benjen left them, I was like, wait, he just like dropped them off.
Bro.
Yeah. Like they're being chased by an army of the dead. And he's like, all right, I'll see you later. Like, dude, you left them on your side of the wall.
I don't know, man. Mira's gonna get some serious upper body strength.
Yeah, that's the plot for next season. She just needs to carry him like 20 feet.
Take some steroids, bulk up.
Yeah. What are like the Westerosi steroids? They gotta have something.
Oh,
like milk of the poppy, that puts people to sleep. I don't know, something.
Yeah, some other kind of milk.
I feel like if anybody has steroids, it's Tormund. I feel like Tormund would take steroids.
Oh yeah.
Because if he was like a guy, like in the real world and the modern era, he'd be like one of those gym bros. Like they're nice. He's like a nice guy, but he's like really obsessed with working out and like impressing the chicks. He'd be like, "Yo, bro, I'm gonna like hit up the club and like hit up some chicks," and I'd be like, "All right, Tormund, just keep it cool. Don't harass people and don't like start fights. Don't start fights with other dudes." He'd be like, "Oh, all right, man, yeah."
And then he wants to go, get with chicks who are as ripped as him.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Brienne would be like, uh, she'd be focused on work and helping people, and
Hmm.
just like an overall great person. But she'd
Yeah.
also be like in such good shape where she could kick everyone's ass. And then
Oh,
Tormund would be like, "Oh, I want her to kick my ass."
yeah. I want this. I want this show. I want this rom-com.
I want them to meet up again next season so badly.
I know. Meet up and hook up.
Yeah, they're both just gonna be like, "We almost died. Fuck it. Let's just do this."
Go for it.
uh, I don't think there's anything else. Any other thoughts you might have in the north for the Greyjoys?
Oh gosh, I mean, I could go on for days and days, so I'd say we can keep trucking along.
Yeah,
North,
so the
north is good, north is great.
yes, the Greyjoys were good this season. I mean,
Yep.
I really like Theon's development as a character and being like just a piece of shit to like being like the most not sympathetic, but just like you just feel so bad for him at first, and he's like a confused puppy, or he's clearly torn between loyalties to his adopted family. I mean, he was a hostage, but they
Yeah.
became his adopted family basically, and then his real family, who was run by his dick father, and now he's finally realizing what he wants in life, and he's determined to be good and do better, and that's a real great arc for that character.
Yeah.
And his relationship with his sister has become this really great familial bond that is sort of similar to Jon and Sansa, but I think they actually trust each other more than Jon and Sansa, or at the very least have better communication.
Yes. They're on the same page now. And
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to stay that way.
Yeah, and I really like that. And then his uncle Euron shows up and kills his dad, and it's like, what? Which also finally fulfills Melisandre's prophecy about all the kings dying.
Yep.
And it only took like 5 seasons.
Yeah.
But, you know what? She didn't say how long it would take, to her credit.
That's true. But now it has come to pass.
Yeah, finally. I'm not going to miss that guy. He was kind of an asshole.
No.
Yeah. Euron is not much better, though.
Nope.
He's just like,
not even a little bit.
yeah, he just shows up and steals Yara's thunder. And he's like, all right, I'm going to be king now. And then as soon as he gets undrowned, he's like, all right, I'm going to go kill my niece and nephew. Like, what the fuck, dude?
I know. Guy's a freaking psychopath. Like, he... just that scene where it's like, oh, where are my niece and nephew? Let's go kill him. Just that.
Imagine if that was your uncle and it's like Christmas Eve. Like,
crazy Uncle Fred, you know.
Yeah, Uncle Fred.
Homicidal.
That's only when he drinks a special eggnog. So.
Right. Yeah, I gotta keep him away from the nog.
Yeah, that guy's a mess.
Yeah.
He's yeah. I mean, what else? He's not got a lot going on as a character, but we were just introduced to him, and then the last we saw him, he was building another fleet of ships because Yara and Theon were smart and took the fastest ones with what I assume are their best men, or at least their most trustworthy men.
Yeah. They had to get scooting pretty quick, so I figure at least most trusted.
Yeah. And they took a lot. I forgot how many they took, but then in the finale, I was like, oh, yeah, that's...
You could see them everywhere, like, oh.
Yeah.
They done good. That was quite the exodus there.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of that is ships from Marine and the slavers, masters, or former masters, I guess. But, yeah, I also remember an earlier episode. Yeah, it's a pretty substantial fleet Daenerys got there. And eventually, the Greyjoy siblings going to Marine was a nice surprise. I thought for sure Euron was going to show up first.
I know.
Even though he needed to rebuild ships. That would have been okay. I think that would have been interesting too. But the fact that they kind of just kept the stuff moving along was nice. It was nice to have a breezy pace again for this season. But admittedly, like Jack said on Twitter, I do think it could have been expounded upon more a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too breezy, one might say, but I am very happy that they're teaming up with Daenerys. Like, this is such a weird place to be in because there's no more books, obviously, and you know, to an extent, it might feel inherently fan fictiony, like, oh, this character from over here, the literal opposite side of the globe, is gonna go meet up with this character way over here on the opposite side of that globe.
Right.
Yeah. Like, if someone told me that in the first season, like, oh yeah, Theon's going to team up with his sister, and his sister's going to hit on Daenerys Stormborn, I'd be like, okay.
Like, what you smoking?
Yeah, that's a little silly. But nope, we're good.
It works, you know? Like, if anything, it made the season a lot less grindy, you know? Like, we're just trying to grind through everybody's journeys and hoping that people are going to intersect and meet up, you know, months down the line. And they cut out all of that busy work to just give us the emotional high points. And for as ridiculous as it may seem and fantastical, this is a fantasy, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, the writer Elmore Leonard, the recently passed Elmore Leonard, R.I.P., he had this saying where he would write books without the parts that people tend to skim over. And I think this season of Game of Thrones really took that to heart.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And it's all the better for it. So let's move over to Meereen and get Arya's Bravo stuff out of the way first.
Yeah, that's good.
That was a little slower also. Much improved pacing over the previous season because this season at least she felt like she was learning stuff. And the ultimate point of the story was a little... I had question marks going forward to it. I was like, okay, so is she just gonna, like... Is she gonna learn all this and then get assignments to go back to Westeros? Or what's it gonna be like?
Right.
But, yeah, and then it turned out to be a journey of self-discovery for Arya, where this isn't what she wanted to do, and... she knows who she is and what she has to do in life now, or what she wants to do in life now. And that's it took a little long, but the fact that we got there, that was a really great moment from a really great episode, and a nice place to leave off the character. Oh, no, that's not where we left her off. We left her off after she fed the two sons of Walder Frey to him and then slit his throat. Now that was a good place to leave off the character. Yeah, that was a heck of a place to leave off. Yeah, what do you think about Arya's stuff?
There? Yeah, it was it was really definitely slower, it seemed, but it was kind of this journey of self-actualization, I guess. And again, I was thinking the same thing that you were, that perhaps she was going to go through with all of her training at the House of Black and White, and that eventually she would find herself in Westeros again, but perhaps not on her own terms. But that is quite the contrary from what we see. And I think it was cool, too, the different places where we got to see Arya go, like when she was supposed to kill Lady Crane, and then she got to see... whatever that play was called, The Bloody Hand, or whatever that was, getting to see these events from the past recounted and to sort of see how far the story has come and to see Arya connect with these different touch points from the past to kind of move herself into the future, because it's like when she was forced to watch, you know, the death of Joffrey and all these things going on with different characters and even the mockery that was made of her own family, I think that kind of provided her with the impetus to take charge and to ultimately return to Westeros and get back to her murder list. So it was really interesting, and I think perhaps more rewarding than I think some people would give it credit for. In that sense, I got a lot out of it personally. I know a lot of people were bummed that we didn't actually get to see her kill the waif, but it was super cool the way that they just cut the friggin' candle and it goes black and then boom, Daredevil moment. I was actually fine with that too. So I know that there were different people complaining about her arc, but I sort of understand what they were trying to do, or at least had my own interpretation of it that made it meaningful. So I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at about it.
Yeah, for me, when an arc ends on a very positive note, or at the very least a positive note, like something I could say, like, yes, that was a good endpoint, or they achieved this somehow, I am much more forgiving. If even if it's like a really good story until the finite point of a certain arc or story, then I start being less happy about it. But so yeah, this is a good example of the former. Another theory. Okay, what if one that kills Cersei? Because she's definitely still on the list. You know?
Oh yes.
And in Cersei's prophecy, there is a little tale about a younger princess usurping her. Correct. So
yes, that is
I think
true.
I think Cersei might think she won because I think she interpreted that as Marjorie, and Marjorie is unfortunately no longer with us. And I had thought it was Sansa for a long time, but right now, what if it's Arya? Maybe Jaime's not the one to kill her.
Yeah.
Maybe they team up and kill her.
I know.
I don't know.
It's like
It
that Stark
anything can
Lannister
happen.
team up we were talking about, you know?
Yeah, and then he forsakes the kingdom finally, and then they just go team up with Jon Snow and Sansa in the north, and then fight the White Walkers. And then Daenerys swoops in at the last minute, and they fist bump her dragons, and it's like explosion in the background while they jump up midair and high five.
Yes, this is officially what I want. This can be our joint prediction. I'm into it. Yeah.
All right. So I guess the last little bit of news then is Marine. Yay! This stuff, everything this season improved so drastically in terms of quality and pacing and arcs. Daenerys rediscovers her little inner fire and become a ruler, and maybe there's a little hint of her own parents in there, or the Mad King in there inside of her. But for right now, she still has the best intentions. The problem is, she is still out of touch with Westeros, and even Tyrion, her great advisor and one of the best Game of Thrones characters, one of the wisest, also out of touch.
Yes.
We saw him be out of touch with the slavers at Slavers Bay, and that led them to attack, to get attacked. I wonder how well he's going to fare in a return to Westeros.
Yes.
I also wonder where Jorah's going to end up, because the last we're going to see of Jorah, he might just never come back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope that he returns. You know, I want him to, like, show up in King's Landing to meet up with Daenerys later. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe he goes back home to Bear Island.
Yeah.
And then he meets Lyanna Mormont, and
dude,
she heals
yes.
him. Somehow, I don't know. She's probably like, "Oh, don't you any of you fuckers read a book?" And then she'll just like pull out the cure for this centuries-long disease.
Okay, yeah, I want that too. Lyanna can do whatever she pleases. She's incredible.
Yep, and that's how he gets cured, because he went to go see his niece. I guess she's his niece. I don't know.
I would imagine so. That would make sense to me.
I don't think she's his daughter, right? I mean, they never mentioned that.
I don't think so. I guess it's within the realm of possibility, but I'd say niece kind of seems more in the vein. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we find out next season. Harry stuff got a whole lot more interesting. She had a revolving door plot, kind of. I mean, she was out on the road for a long time. She got another Khalasar, like all of them.
Yep.
And something from the books, Ares isn't literally unburnable. Like she can be burned. But in the book, they're just like, oh, that's cool. Let's make it literal text. And so they did. And I think
Yeah.
I prefer this.
Yeah.
For this too. You know, I mean, it's fantasy, so you can kind of go that route with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones before, even in its best seasons and episodes, it always like, oh, this is fantasy, but if it happened in the real world. And this season went
Right.
full on like, nah, we're a fantasy show. So here's how fantasy storytelling is done with a darker edge to it, of course, and
Mm-hmm.
still bad things, still sad things.
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, there's actually, yeah, it was good. That was good stuff.
it was. Yeah. I have to say, I really enjoyed, this was more comic relief than anything else, but getting to see Tyrion swinging things over in Marine in Daenerys' absence, and trying to teach Missandei and Grey Worm how to tell jokes and enjoy wine was was very sweet. I was a fan of that. It was
What
good.
else? I'm trying to think. What, I don't even remember his name. I forgot his name already.
Dario.
Dude, yes.
I don't think this is the first time you've forgotten.
Oh my god, that guy is like a nothing. But
Yep.
last episodes redeemed him for me. But yeah, he's nothing to me. The most exciting thing he did was just admit he wants to be like a side dude to the queen. So
Yep.
yeah, that was cool. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones in its latter seasons has been teaming people up in interesting fashions. Like Varys and Tyrion were always good together, but then you got Tyrion and Jorah at one point.
Mm-hmm.
You get Brienne and Tormund, Sansa and Theon. Like these really interesting pairings, and then they teamed up Jorah with Dario. I already forgot again. Yeah, they teamed those two up together, and I was like, "Oh my god, Jorah's so much more interesting, even like by himself. Just stop talking forever."
Yeah, yeah, it was really cool to see the two of them try to go facilitate Dany's escape, and you know, them having to play nice despite their overlapping interests was kind of fun. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed people pairing up with Jorah. I think he's kind of an interesting troubled fellow, but a good soul. And then Dario is kind of whatevs, but you know, like you said, he was totally content to be the side dude, and his last parting request was kind of funny, kind of showed his hand, and it was good, but can't say he's gonna be missed. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, but I also do like, I don't think I mentioned this, but I really like Daenerys' parting words to him, where he says like, how am I supposed to find another woman that lives up to Khaleesi, mother of dragons? And then she's like, you will, because she's, you know, she might have a little bit of her father in her, but she's still humble, and she still understands that, you know, she's not the best person in the world, and that she's also, that there are also other great people out there. No matter what you do, no matter like what size your accomplishments are, there are other people who are just as wonderful. And that is really cool to hear from someone like that, who is literally like all the power in Westeros, right? Or is going to have all the power in Westeros.
Yeah, it shows that undercurrent of integrity that we've seen to a lot of her actions. And that gives me hope that, maybe she could be the one. And it makes me understand why even somebody as cynical as Tyrion would be able to back her in a heartbeat. Because, I mean, she's got the goods, she's got the perspective, and she's learning a lot, even if some of her actions are reminiscent of her father's atrocities. She is clearly, like she said to Yara, trying to leave the world better than they found it. And I do believe that is what she perceives that she's doing. And she is taking steps toward trying to make that happen. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive about Dany these days. But, yeah.
Oh, and she's also aware that she might be straying or straddling some lines that aren't really comfortable. And the fact that she's aware bodes well for her, I
she
think.
knows and she recognizes these things and is honest even with her own fears too. So all very good things, things that are lost upon many leaders before and around her, but she's got great counsel and a good head on her shoulders, so got that going for her.
Yeah. Trying to think. I mean, I don't think there's anything else to bring up. I mean, the dragons went back to Daenerys a little quickly, but thematically and in the moment, it works very well. And I think it carries over now that she's finally got everything in order in Meereen, and now she's going to go, in her eyes, save Westeros. And we'll see how that works out for everyone involved. I don't think anybody's going to be happy to see her, is what I'm saying.
Probably not. I dare say you're on the right track there.
Do you have anything else you want to mention for Meereen?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, we were kind of away from it for a while we were tracking with Dany, and then she came back, got ready to go, and scooted on out to Westeros. So, yeah, I think we hit just about everything.
Okay, then, before we get into final thoughts on the season as a whole, I have a few oddball theories out there that I would like to bring up to people.
Yes.
Okay, so I cannot find the exact link for this one anymore, but this is one that was found on Game of Thrones Reddit, and it's that the White Walkers are not actually evil. They're just are supposed to keep everything clear above the wall. So they're not good, but they're not actually trying to make it down past the wall. They're trying to just keep everything clear up there. And the humanity in Westeros is going to fight back preemptively against that, and that's going to cause them to come down. This one isn't like totally audible. I just thought it was a little weird. So
that is strange. Yeah. It's like, actually, guys, it's okay. They got their turn. Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know what I think about that or whether that would actually come about, but not too crazy.
Yeah. And then this one is, what if Eddard Stark wasn't alive? This is from users on a forum of Ice and Fire. And this one I don't believe at all. So I think the thing is that if Syrio Forel is a faceless man, because I think for a while people believed that Syrio was also Jaqen H'ghar. And I don't think there's any connection between those two now. I think if there was a connection there, it would have been brought up already. And so he would have taken Ned Stark's place, and then Eddard would have used like some warging techniques, and he's like in some animal right now or something. And I'm like, this one's weird because it doesn't impact anything.
Yeah, it's just something that could be true.
Yeah. Like, if someone told me that and like thoroughly explained it, because the overall theory is a lot longer, but that's the gist of it. It's just like, okay, so if it was real, not only would it not matter, nobody would know.
Yeah.
So
you can believe it if you want to, and if you can justify it.
Yeah.
Just to make the world that much more colorful and interesting.
And then there's this other one that Mira is actually Jon Snow's twin sister.
Mira.
This one I think works better within the books because the Reed family is at least more noted, and Howland Reed, Mira's father, was with Ned at the Tower of Joy, where his sister gave birth to Jon. And so I guess it's kind of like a Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia thing.
Sure.
Just again, this one's really out there, and we didn't see anybody else who survived that fight at the Tower of Joy in the show. with
Uh-huh.
Ned, and yeah, I don't know why that would even be necessary, because the whole point of Jon
Yeah.
Snow coming back also proves that he's the prince that was promised Azor Ahai,
Hmm. Yeah.
and what I guess Mira could also be that. I mean,
Hmm.
that could be a thing, but the show doesn't do anything to promote that thinking.
Right. Yeah. Which is what makes it kind of feel like it comes more from left field because there's not really quite enough in the show to substantiate